Chapter 451, Secrets Mustn't Be Passed to 6 Ears. One cudgel attack like a river of stars, traversing the outer space. One cudgel attack smashing through space, bringing back the recurrence of the ancient chaos. One cudgel attack onto a star, and all living creatures would be crushed. What kind of cudgel attack was this? With all humans united, all spirit forces were channeled into this cudgel attack. Moreover, with the reinforcement of the heart monkey force, the power step another notch up. This destructive cudgel attack could wipe out everything in the universe. It soared into the sky, and everywhere it passed by, the outer space itself would be completely shattered, not having anything left behind. If the universe itself was destroyed, how could that disaster of the universe possibly exist? The golden monkey raised the cudgel. With a world-annihilating force, the cudgel brought forth a recurrence of chaos. The universe was cleansed, not leaving the slightest bit of dark shadow and bringing back a stretch of clear sky. Hoo. Controlling a power that far surpassed that in his body, Feng Lin stood in outer space and panted. All of his powers were completely dissipated and he was worn out, unable to lift even a single finger. As he stopped his action, the chanting sounds that permeated the outer space dissipated as well. Everyone's bodies trembled and they got back to their senses, feeling a little lost as if they had just woken up from a dream and didn't know what had happened. Has the calamity ended? What on earth happened? How did we recover? Many astonished voices rang out in the communication channel. Everyone broke into a commotion, having no idea what had just happened. They only felt as if they had forgotten something very important. Seeing this, a thought hit Feng Lin. He felt as if everyone had lost their memories. Although everything happened before their eyes, they couldn't remember anything. This is really strange. I seem to have heard a person whispering a profound and mysterious sutra next to my ear. However, the funny thing is that I don't remember anything. Me too. Does anyone remember the content of that sutra? I don't remember any of it at all. Could we have been possessed? What rubbish. We're interstellar cultivators. Who can possess us? Many discussions broke out in the communication channel and everyone was taken aback. They had no idea what had just happened, and they all started to feel great doubt. The three marshals exchanged a glance with grim countenances. Hearing sutra, chanting sutra, forgetting sutra. They also had the feeling that they had experienced a strange process. They saw a human silhouette that was encased amidst massive white light and was very blurry, unable to be seen clearly. Other than that, they couldn't remember anything else. They were considered to be the most top-notch experts amongst the interstellar humans. Who would be able to lay a hand on them without a trace? Just thinking about it made them feel horrified. Which senior had lent a helping hand? Please come out. I am the Great Wall University's Interstellar Warfare Marshal. Please do come out. We're very grateful that you've lent us a helping hand. I represent the Great Wall University to request for a meeting with Senior. The Interstellar Warfare Marshal stepped forth and shouted 3 lines. His voice waves seethed and transmitted out into the far distance. However, even after a very long time had passed, there was still no reply. The outer space was in dead silence, as if nothing had happened at all. From the beginning to the end, no one knew that the person who was the cause of this was right next to them. That figure from earlier was shrouded in white light and none of them had managed to see his face clearly. This was... Secrets mustn't be passed on to 6 ears. At the sight of this strange scene, Feng Lin couldn't help but feel deeply astonished. There was a unique technique in the world that was passed down since ancient times and involved the intrinsic profoundness of the Great Tao. It was extremely deep and contained endless mysteries. Usually, it would possess some kind of uniqueness and couldn't be disseminated no matter what. Why? Because there could at most be only one successor in this world. Unless the predecessor were to pass away, no one would be able to learn this technique. Even if it was right before you, you would instantly forget about it, not having any recollections of it. This technique was deeply engraved into the universe's great Tao, representing a type of rule. It was a unique technique that existed only in the legends, but no one had really seen it before. Right now, Feng Lin had seen it. Every single word in the Subhoodie's Measureless Heart Sutra was still in his mind, as if they had been deeply engraved and hard to forget. The other people had clearly heard him chant the Heart Sutra, but none of them remembered it. Even the three marshals with deep and unfathomable cultivation were no exception. They had even forgotten about Feng Lin's figure. They were clueless about the person who had been so heaven-defying and wiped out the disaster of the universe, saving everyone from the great danger. This was good as well. Feng Lin wasn't surprised but was elated instead. The extraordinary feat was accomplished by an unknown character. Although he was merely an adept cultivator, he had brought down the disaster of the universe, which even the three marshals couldn't fend off. It wasn't bad to keep a high profile, but being too high profile would lead to death. Such a big difference in strength wasn't something that could be explained through hidden means. However, under the huge secret, everyone would still lay in wait for an opportunity to get their hands on it. Right now, Feng Lin's cultivation was still insufficient for him to be domineering and fearless amongst the interstellar humans. He had been fretting over how he should explain this. But right now, these people had forgotten about this troublesome danger. This was good. What Feng Lin was most concerned about was protecting the secret of the genetic equation and Sun Wukong mythological path. Seeing that those people were all perplexed and guessing whether some hidden human senior had come to render assistance, Feng Lin let out a soft laugh and didn't say anything. He chose to hide his merit and reputation. He had gained great benefits in this battle between races. One of them was the tremendous amount of genetic potential, over 220,000 points. Even the Sun Wukong gene, a powerful Hotian gene that had been newly awakened, could be instantly strengthened by 2 points. Gaining power was the greatest benefit. All right. The spirit race has finally been wiped out. It's really all thanks to that hidden human senior. To think that there's an expert who is comparable to a god or demon amongst our human race. This is really a great fortune. Although they weren't clear about the identity of their savior, their lives were saved nonetheless. This was their greatest takeaway. Everyone present was extremely excited, feeling blessed to have survived a great calamity. Feng Lin quietly sank amongst the crowd and wore a smile as he watched this scene without saying anything. The three marshals went all out to sense their surroundings, but still hadn't detected any abnormalities. After that, they drew back their gaze, looked at each other, and shook their heads. No matter what, the battle had ended. Humans had eventually won. It was good for them to have one. Right now, the communication channel was filled with an exhilarated peal of laughter. Many of their people had died in the battle, and a lot of them also suffered great injuries all over their bodies. They had paid an extremely huge price. However, in the end, all these were worth it. There was nothing happier than victory in the world. A battle between races. They had finally won it, winning precious time for humans to develop once again. Over several thousand years, countless human seniors had bled, made sacrifices, and devoted hard work to fight for their descendants' future. Only through those sacrifices could they keep on growing stronger with each generation. Right now, they had done the same thing as well, taking the same path as their seniors had done. Many gazes looked toward the starry sky outside the galaxy. That place was filled with the unknown and hope, as well as endless possibilities. The day would come when the interstellar humans would eventually. Everyone firmly believed in this. The depths of Feng Lin's gaze also radiated with an unprecedented glow. Chapter 452, Grand Meeting of Victory. Everyone is here. Return to the motherships. In the darkness of the universe, shattered corpses and metallic pieces of wreckage were everywhere. For this kind of war, either side would give up unless one side was completely annihilated. Therefore, the number of casualties was impossibly high. After the burst of joy that everyone felt at having survived the calamity, every human on the battlefield lay limply in space. They were completely exhausted. In their communication channel, the Star Battle Marshal suddenly roared. When everyone heard the command, they obeyed immediately. Rumble. The motherships, which had been concealed in the depths of outer space, began to move closer once again. The door to the motherships then opened. Everyone felt like they just woke up from a dream. They gathered their remaining energy and began to move toward the motherships. They were heavily injured and wanted nothing more than to enter the healing chamber to recuperate. Feng Lin's heart stirred, increasing his speed as he took the lead in entering the healing chamber. First-year student of the Great Wall University, Feng Lin. Cultivation base at the Adept Realm, injury percentage at 62%. Mental strength is completely drained, and damage was found to the bone structure. The bone of your left arm is broken. The moment he entered the healing chamber, the AI scanned him and instantly gave out the most accurate data with regards to his body. After that, the door to the healing chamber closed as a clear flow of water gushed forth. This seemed to be a flow of water, yet it also resembled clouds and mist. It permeated all pores on Feng Lin's body, seeping into it. This was clearly liquefied spiritual qi. Seems like the Great Wall University has paid a very high price for this battle. The Light God Mecha armor on Feng Lin had automatically been unequipped under the control of the AI. His body was covered in blood, and he looked to be in an extremely miserable state. After such an intense fight, all the energy in his body was completely exhausted. Although his body was a stone monkey body, with stone skin and steel bones, invulnerable to spears and swords, he was extremely close to the breaking point. Boundless spiritual qi enveloped him, causing him to feel as though he was in a hot spring. He also felt a cool breeze blowing through his body. The blood and dirt faded away. His pores completely opened and were like millions of mouths that were frenziedly devouring the spiritual qi to replenish his body. Who? Feng Lin puffed out a deep breath, which was like an arrow that shot outwards. His consciousness also began to sink with no limits, entering a serene state of silence. His heart was at peace with no other fluctuations. Feng Lin entered a deep slumber. His body sank into a curled-up state, like a baby in its mother's arms. He was truly too tired. Regardless of his body, heart, or soul, all were exhausted to the max. It was a dreamless sleep. When he opened his eyes again and looked at the time, he discovered that over 60 hours had passed. The duration he was asleep for had exceeded 2 days. After he wore his uniform and exited the healing chamber, the AI of the mothership instantly issued a reminder. Warrior of the Great Wall University, Mr. Feng Lin, good day to you. We have already returned to the Great Wall University. Next, a grand meeting of victory will be organized to reward the brave interstellar students and warriors. The victory of humans completely depended on the sacrifices and contributions of all of you. You have to attend the grand meeting for sure. During the days where he was asleep, the mothership had already traversed through a wormhole and back to the Great Wall University. Feng Lin hadn't even returned to his residence yet when the AI sent him a message regarding the information of the grand meeting. He could only head over there. The more he proceeded forward, the louder the sounds of cheering became within the Great Wall University. The sounds flowed forth like wildfire, complementing the faces of everyone that was filled with joy and happiness. We won. Humanity really won. All warriors of humanity are truly awesome. We, interstellar humanity, would never give up. We would never be defeated. Elated cheering echoed. Everyone here felt proud from the depths of their hearts. Feng Lin's eyes blinked. Silver light gleamed as he clearly saw a surge of dazzling sharp aura emitted from the crown of everyone's head. He had some understanding in his mind. A large war like what they had faced would naturally cause everyone to feel an immense sense of danger, the danger of annihilation. But at the same time, before a supremely powerful enemy, the hearts and souls of all humans would be united as one. The war blazed furiously, igniting the wills of humanity, tempering their wills, and hardening them to steel. Nothing could shake them easily. The hatred and anger, all the negative feelings in their hearts were all ground away cleanly. The great waves of the ocean would sift through the sand, revealing gold. Those fence-sitters, passive people, and traitors were all completely cleansed. Right now, the internal factions of humanity all had an unprecedentedly good relationship with each other. The hearts of everyone were as one. The human heart must be united for the heart of the army to be united. A war of this scale was a great calamity. But danger always coexisted with opportunity. After surviving the calamity, it was normal for the attitudes of everyone to change, becoming completely new people. What could be anticipated was that after this calamity, the Great Wall Army and the Great Wall University would welcome a period of explosive development. The experts of the younger generations would emerge and their strengths would all be greatly enhanced as well. The reason the Great Wall University was located at the boundary of the Milky Way galaxy was also why they were one of the top 10 universities in the cosmos. A treasure sword had to be sharpened. The fragrance of plum blossoms only emitted during the bitter chill of winter. As the first line of defense against the alien races, the situation here was always filled with danger. If there was the slightest bit of carelessness, the first line of defense would be breached and humanity would surely suffer. But under such intense tempering, the rewards and harvests gained would far surpass what the others received. The tempering that the students of the Great Wall University had to go through was something the other 9 universities couldn't provide. In addition, the Great Wall University also had the chance to obtain some of the valuable resources not available in the Milky Way galaxy. Behind the danger, endless waves of elites were emerging from the cocoons and being born anew. Each of them was an elite of humanity, so rare and valuable that there might not be one in 10,000. Hence, the Great Wall University grew increasingly prosperous. When it was first established, it was just a tiny and weak army with no other support. They were formed from death convicts and a bunch of people exiled at the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. However, their ranking kept climbing up. They first climbed into the ranks of the top 10 universities. And now, they were already in the top 3 and even had the hope of claiming the topmost position. The cultivators of the Great Wall University originated from all corners of the universe. They gathered here gradually and became vast tides of water, directly rushing down the enemies of humanity. Each of them stood straight and tall, exuding a sense of imposingness. Their spines were as straight as spears and they exuded the vitality of dragons and the sharpness of tigers. Their auras were so great that everyone would instantly take note of them. More and more people gathered here. Countless gazes turned toward them, filled with respect and admiration. These warriors who returned victoriously basked in the gazes of everyone, bearing hardship with equanimity. After these 2 days of rest, the Great Wall University paid a huge price to nourish and aid everyone who fought on the battlefield, allowing them to return to their peak states. Their auras were incomparably ferocious, displaying their shocking vitality. After experiencing a life-and-death battle, each of them had received an immense amount of tempering and had emerged totally anew. Their cultivation bases had improved by leaps and bounds. So these are the warriors that participated in that final battle? Truly valiant and terrifying. Of course. You must note that these people are the true elites of us, humanity. How can you view them as ordinary people? That's true. Now that these powerful warriors are part of our Great Wall University, is there any worry that humanity wouldn't be able to defeat the aliens? The spectators were all cheering. Their voices were filled with excitement and admiration. These students and warriors who survived all held their heads high and puffed out their chests. Emotion stirred their hearts. They felt that all the sufferings and risks they had to take were worth it. There was a 90% chance of death and only a 10% chance of survival. They were now reaping the rewards that they had paid with their flesh and blood. The 10 heavenly kings? All of them were filled with anticipation for the grand meeting of victory. Feng Lin silently walked into the crowd and stood beside Zhao Yui. "You are here." Zhao Yui glanced at him and smiled while nodding her head. As more warriors and students arrived, the cheering in the public square grew in intensity. This scene was also broadcasted throughout the universe to all of humanity. The grand meeting of victory of the Great Wall University has begun. The Great Wall University depended on their strength alone to win the war. They are truly too awesome. Even for the other top universities in the cosmos, they would be hard-pressed to achieve it, right? One couldn't help but say that although the location of the Great Wall University was extremely bad, at the edge of the Milky Way galaxy, their strength truly had the capabilities to be number one. I'm going to enroll for the Great Wall University next year. The cheers of admiration continued unceasingly. The wondrous feat of the Great Wall University had shocked and awed the Milky Way galaxy. And right now, Feng Lin and the others were quietly waiting for the opening of the grand meeting. Rumble. The void trembled. A figure stood arrogantly in the air with his arms crossed before his chest, staring down imperiously at everyone. His gaze was like a hunting hawk, filled with decisiveness and cruelty. Just from afar, he exuded an aura of majesty. No one dared to behave recklessly before him. If he wasn't the Star Battle Marshal, who was he? As the representative for the most famous faction in the Great Wall Army, everyone erupted into wild cheers the instant he appeared. Mighty! 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 The cheers rocked the sky and didn't cease even after a long time. The sounds of the cheers were like a tide engulfing everyone in the surroundings. No matter who it was who participated in the war, right now, all of them had faces filled with pride. This was something they deserved. The Star Battle Marshal slowly cut down with his hand, issuing a signal. The sounds of cheering also gradually began to cease. His gaze was like lightning, scanning the surroundings. When he saw the faces here all turning to look at him, he nodded lightly and began to speak with a heavy voice. It was like a booming bell, echoing through the air and resounding in the ears of everyone, causing their minds to shake. Comrades, students, warriors. This time, we were victorious. Great. Long live victory. Long live Marshal. Long live humanity. Long live Great Wall University. Long live. The roars of excitement were like huge tides rising and gushing over. The Marshal was extremely satisfied with the reactions of everyone. His hand cut down once again as the cheers died down. After that, he continued to speak. Another racial war. We survived and managed to annihilate our enemies. This is the victory of the Great Wall Army, and also the victory for humanity. This will be recorded in the eternal annals of our history. We are those who personally experienced the war, we are also the witness of this moment of history. Our victory doesn't solely depend on ourselves. The support of each and every human at our backs is invaluable. This glory is to be shared among all humans. Everything is for humanity, let's give it your all and enjoy yourself today. When his voice echoed out, the cheers of everyone reached a fevered pitch. The sounds of their cheering rose to the sky. On the star web, billions of humans were looking at the live broadcast. When they heard the words of the Marshal, the live comments instantly came flooding in. 666. The Great Wall Army is impressive. The men of the universe should all be like this. With the Great Wall Army protecting our borders, humanity doesn't need to worry. The moment the Star Battle Marshal spoke, the curtains of the grand meeting of victory had been pulled open amidst the sounds of wild cheering that echoed through the starry space. The echoes continued and didn't end even after a long time. Chapter 453, For Humanity. Long live humanity. Long live humanity. These were the voices of heartfelt blessing from the depths of everyone's heart. As humans, they naturally hoped their own race's civilization could persist for as long as possible, for millions upon millions of years. Their voices were like unending tides in which a powerful will as solid as a mountain could be heard. This type of will was boundless and had no limits, capable of breaking the heavens and shaking the earth, moving the mountains and oceans. The Star Battle Marshal cut down with his hand again, causing their voices to recede once more as he spoke. Although we managed to gain an important strategic victory, we must not forget our comrades who sacrificed themselves. For our civilization, they didn't hesitate to give up their valuable lives. They are true heroes who know no fear. We must not forget them. Even if they are lying in graves, their spirits would continue to persist for eternity and be as one with all of us. As he spoke, the Star Battle Marshal's voice grew lower and more forceful, emitting a power that could stir the hearts of people. The whole venue was silent. No one said anything, everyone was immersed in their emotions, contemplating in silence. Their expressions were solemn, and some people were even shedding tears. Among those brave warriors who sacrificed themselves, some were their friends, their kin, their brothers, their sisters, their lovers. From the perspective of all humanity, the numbers of those who died seemed like mere data. But everyone couldn't help but feel sorrow from the bottom of their hearts. In wars of several thousands of years, humanity had simply sacrificed too much. The sounds of sobs faintly drifted over, filled with sorrow. The joy and sorrow of humanity were fully displayed at this moment. The expressions of everyone were solemn, showing their respect for the brave warriors who had sacrificed themselves. There were even more people whose eyes were filled with cold killing intent, exuding their intents to take revenge. In this racial war, even blood that had flowed was dried up. There was no need to mention tears. What remained was the powerful and unbendable will of humanity. If they couldn't annihilate their enemies completely, they vowed never to rest. The human heart was mighty. Feng Lin could sense the tenacious will and he deeply felt the strength of humanity. This wasn't a strength granted to humans innately or through science and technology. It was their own inner hearts. Although they had endured so much difficulty and danger, their hearts wouldn't waver. Their powerful wills could even shake the heavens and earth, nothing could block them. No matter how tough a situation was, as long as they didn't die, and as long as they could catch a breath of relief, they would grow even stronger. Now we will begin to report the casualties and the names of the brave warriors who died in the war. The Star Battle Marshal's tone was heavy. Everyone held their breaths. The death rate of that final battle was 71.3% for us. 15.9% was heavily injured, 9.1% was lightly injured. The intensity of that battle surpassed the imaginations of everyone. They were all the incomparable shocking talents of humanity. The data that was revealed was dyed in their blood. The serious numbers even caused the Star Battle Marshal to feel an aching in his heart. Humanity vows that we would never coexist with the spirit race, he decisively spoke. Pain and hatred could clearly be heard in his tone. Everyone felt their eyes go red when they heard this. They were gritting their teeth so hard that they almost broke. The grinding sounds could also be heard clearly. The deaths of their comrades caused them to feel hatred and sorrow. They were the lucky ones who managed to live on. No matter what, it was a fact that they had managed to survive, and they had to continue to live on. Feng Lin's expression was also solemn. After experiencing this war, only then did he truly sense the true situation of their existence in the vast universe. They were truly standing on extremely dangerous grounds. If there was the slightest mistake, their entire race would be annihilated. From humanity's perspective, this war was one that touched on their fates. If the Great Wall University was broken through, the moment the spirit race invaded the Milky Way galaxy, their influence would instantly spread, becoming a calamity that would harm the entire universe. But to the spirit race themselves who had dominated over 10 star systems, the army they sent out was nothing more than one of the many branches. Just a branch of the spirit race alone caused such a huge threat to humanity. If the spirit race was to come at humanity with full force, that would be true terror. This wasn't a simple guess. It was something that could come true in the future. The spirit race symbolized the negative energy in the universe. They were formless life forms and was directly in opposition to humans who had material bodies. This was an innate opposition from birth, an enmity that only death could undo. Nothing else could resolve it. Once humanity displayed the slightest weakness, the spirit race would definitely come in full force to devour them in one fell swoop. A single victory wasn't sufficient to guarantee peace forever. Ultimately, humans were still too weak. Feng Lin could clearly sense this point. Strength was not only extremely important in his currently weak self's perspective, but it was also of incomparable importance to humanity. Humans had no lack of experts. What they lacked was a truly supreme hegemon that could suppress the alien races completely. A god. In the interstellar era where one's individual strength was of paramount importance, the number of population, the size of one's battle fleet, the vastness of one's territory was no longer the most important. For a race to continue to prosper, they would always need peak-level combat strength or peak-level science and technology. According to their battles against the other alien races, the information they obtained clearly stated this. A god could control the rules of the universe and had the indestructibility aspect. They could open up an independent space that was known as their divine kingdom or heavenly realm, capable of containing an entire race within. A god by itself could represent an entire race. As long as the god didn't perish, the race they were protecting would never die. And this was also something humanity sorely lacked. If a race was annihilated, how could a god still survive on his own? The dark universe was like an incomparably gigantic monster. It was more than sufficient to swallow an individual entity and an entire race. Not even bones would remain. No matter how high one's cultivation base was, as long as one didn't attain godhood, everything was pointless. Feng Lin's eyes gleamed with deep light, gradually turning steel-like, shining with resolve. Now, we will announce the identities of the brave warriors who sacrificed their lives in the war, the Star Battle Marshal announced. Li Tianjiao, from the Taxing planet of Huaxia Star Republic, Wu Yushan, from the Shouda planet of the Freedom Federation, of the Huaxia clan, Canberra Rado, from the United Kingdom Star System of Europa Alliance. Each of them was from different star regions and countries. Their origins were different and they were born at different times, yet all of them shared a common point. They died in the same year, the same month, on the same day. All of them were buried on the battlefield of the final battle. No matter what, with their comrades as companions, those people shouldn't feel lonely even after death, right? As the names were called out, the AI of the university would create holographs of each person. These figures floated in the air, their smiles were extremely lifelike, like they were real. They looked the same as they did in life, appearing once more before everyone else. The commotion continued, sounds of sobbing could be heard. These were all the friends and family of some of the spectators. Right now, they were in another realm, the realm of the dead and the realm of life could never be joined together. Such pain caused the affected spectators to be unable to breathe. They felt the hatred for the spirit race being etched deep down in their hearts and carved into their bones. They also hated the fact that they were far too weak to make a difference. The cruel universe, the dark laws of the jungle. Without strength, one could only wait to be slaughtered by others. One could only be the meat on someone else's chopping board if they didn't have sufficient strength. Right now, all of them incomparably yearned for greater strength. They wanted to be powerful enough to be able to annihilate the spirit race to the last. Not a single one of them was an exception. Rumble. On the public square, numerous gigantic metal pagodas rose from the surface of the earth, shooting upwards, reaching a height roughly about 1,000 meters. The names of the brave warriors were all inscribed onto them. Each name represented the sacrifice made by a heroic individual. The metal pagodas became the commemoration pagodas for the brave warriors of humanity. The brave warriors shall bask in eternal glory. Chant together with me the sacrificial offering text for the ancients. The Star Battle Marshal recited as everyone else echoed him. Their voices merged together, becoming one. The brilliant universe, the spirits of Earth, heroes among humanity. They who strive unremittingly to establish our empire, while paying attention to the sacrifices of the ancients, even commemorating the culture and history, and protecting our civilization. Rising from nothingness, with no territories, they created laws and manifested phenomena in the sky. Flora and fauna bloomed wherever our heroes passed. They who sacrificed themselves for our history and development, resembling the sprouting of grasses, as dark as the night, as bright as the day. May this remind everyone about the sacrifices of our ancestors and express the determination in our hearts. For humanity, our hearts work together as a whole. I beg you to accept the offering of our conviction. He seemed to be conversing with the ancestors of humanity through the river of time, offering their conviction and respect to the spirits of the past heroes. After the sacrificial text was read out, everyone basked in silence, their hearts heavy with grief. Since the grand meeting of victory had reached this step, the offering of conviction ceremony, it meant that this segment had come to an end. Next, it was time to reward those who fought with their lives on the line. Although the sorrow in the hearts of many couldn't dissipate so easily, they were still filled with anticipation. These people understood that there was an immense danger, yet they still risked their lives to participate in that final battle. They understood they might have to sacrifice themselves. Weren't all their actions for the sake of protecting humanity and obtaining the generous rewards after that final battle? The wealth gained through the war was always the greatest. It could allow one to accumulate enough cultivation resources to reach an even higher realm. The rewards and merit gained after a war was always the fairest logic on the battlefield. They couldn't help but feel some anticipation in their hearts. In truth, the Star Battle Marshal who governed an interstellar army of a region also understood this point the most. He didn't try to delay this at all. For this battle, you guys have suffered many casualties, but the rewards we grant would always be fair. Ever since the feudal era on Earth, this has always been the case. Those who participated in the final battle would all be given an increase of 3 ranks to their military ranks and gain 1,000,000 contribution points each. The moment the sound of his voice rang out, a commotion was instantly created. An increase of 3 ranks straight. He is speaking about military ranking, and this ranking isn't something the military of other powers and countries could compare to. If I had known about this, I would have participated in the final battle as well. Stop talking crap. The survival rate is below 10%, given your cultivation base. The chances of you dying on the battlefield are almost guaranteed. Some people felt upset and spoke words of, if I had known. But many of them were shocked instead. Such a great reward. This was truly a great reward. An increase of 3 military ranks. The warriors who had fought in the final battle could become formal officers of the Great Wall Army, and the army would back them up. From now on, these people could walk unchallenged anywhere in Milky Way galaxy. This concept was completely different with regards of students or small troops. They were simply ascending to the heavens with a single step. Those lucky survivors who participated in the final battle reveled in joy from the depths of their hearts. Fong Lin was no exception. In truth, an increase of 3 military ranks was the greatest benefit to him. One must note that his original rank was already a lieutenant. Now that his military ranking was increased by 3, it meant that he was directly promoted to a colonel. An 18-year-old colonel in the Great Wall Army. What concept was this? If he returned to any countries or empires in the Milky Way galaxy, there would at least be a star system as large as the solar system prepared for his retirement. Ascending to the heavens with a single step perfectly described this, right? The eyes of the Star Battle Marshal shone like torches, observing the expressions of everyone here with a single sweep. He didn't feel any embarrassment or awkwardness at all. With so many lieutenants suddenly appearing, it wasn't considered a difficult thing to the Great Wall Army. In truth, in a racial war, there would always be many lower-ranked and middle-ranked officers dying. These newly promoted officers were merely filling up the gap. Although they were young, they were tempered individuals and could be the new blood of the army. This wasn't a bad thing. Every racial war was a test of life and death to the Great Wall Army. However, wasn't it an opportunity too? Before enemies, their hearts were as one. At the same time, the internal structure of humanity would be reshuffled and the structures of the respective powers would also change, becoming stronger than before. A war was also a calamity. Those who survived it would transcend their past selves to be reborn anew. The Great Wall University and Great Wall Army were the same as well, becoming increasingly powerful. This was also the reason why the Great Wall University could develop so well, although they didn't occupy the star region in the Milky Way galaxy that had the greatest advantage. Since the start of time, life and death tempering had always been the most effective way to temper cultivators. All these thoughts flashed past the Star Battle Marshal's mind in an instant. He then spoke again, those brave warriors who died will be rewarded as well. For 3 generations, their children and grandchildren, and great-grandchildren would have a chance to enter the Great Wall University without needing to undergo the test. Each of their descendants would be awarded 1 million contribution points each time. The rewards for those who died were even more generous, but no one complained. Everyone put in the same amount of effort, and those brave warriors even gave up their lives. This was what they deserved. Everyone including Feng Lin and Zhao Yui was filled with anticipation regarding the next topic that would be brought on by the Star Battle Marshal. The Marshal was a true powerhouse. He was one of those who would receive the greatest rewards for winning the final battle. Upon noticing the anticipation of everyone, the Star Battle Marshal also didn't beat around the bush and spoke directly. Now, we will announce the candidates for the 10 Heavenly Kings. Chapter 454, The Spirit-Slaying Heavenly King. The 10 Heavenly Kings. The moment this sentence rang out, the breathings of everyone here instantly became hurried. The 10 Heavenly Kings were the publicly acknowledged 10 strongest individuals of the Great Wall University and Great Wall Army. Just the title alone would allow any one of the 10 Heavenly Kings to obtain vast amounts of resources and enjoy plenty of special privileges. And because the special privileges of the 10 Heavenly Kings were simply too much, the selection criteria weren't solely based on strength. All aspects such as strategy, knowledge, and wits were included, including their battle achievements. In an era of peace, there were no fixed selection criteria, thus, it is very hard to choose them. No matter what the criteria were, it would be very hard to convince the masses. After all, the temptation of the title, the 10 Heavenly Kings, was simply too much. A Heavenly King represented the most elite experts out of the younger generations of the Great Wall Army. There were only 10 such individuals, not a single one more. Out of several tens of thousands of Great Wall University's students or soldiers, the rate was less than 0.01%. Once one became a Heavenly King, they would instantly be elevated up to the internal echelons of the Great Wall University and could be considered an elder of a star region. They could also control large amounts of resources and read up to 90% of classified information stored in the inner web of the Great Wall. This included the vast majority of scientific techniques and precious mythological knowledge that could aid a cultivator on his future path. This was such a rare opportunity, who wouldn't want it? Hence, in order to prevent chaos, there would definitely not be a selection held for the 10 Heavenly Kings in times of peace. Only in the warring era, where heroes would emerge, would everyone's potential be forced out. Battle achievements spoke the loudest, and they became the most important criteria that could convince the masses. Each Heavenly King had slaughtered their way out of a battlefield with their true capabilities. Thus, there was no need to doubt their strength as everyone would be convinced. Most of the people who participated in the final war did so because there was a chance to become a Heavenly King, which could allow them to enjoy immense benefits. They naturally wouldn't mind betting their lives for this. If not, just an increase of 3 military ranks and 1 million contribution points were definitely not worth it to sacrifice their lives. The title of the 10 Heavenly Kings was something everyone thirsted for. Their gazes shone brightly, gleaming with a fiery light. Even Feng Lin had a heavy look on his face. His eyes were serene and deep, cold and emotionless. Although he had no idea what sort of rankings he would achieve, he had absolute confidence in being chosen as one of the 10 heavenly kings. If his effort of uniting the hearts and minds of everyone using the Measureless Heart Sutra was still there, it wouldn't be difficult for him to be ranked number 1. However, since this art mustn't be spread to 6 ears, everyone had forgotten about this particular segment of memory. But even so, Feng Lin's contributions were absolutely not little. He first broke through the lock of the spirit black hole and began to massacre the spirit race monsters. Although Feng Lin's cultivation base was weak, he was walking on the Sun Wukong mythological path. His heart monkey force was the bane of these spirit life forms, and his killing prowess wasn't in any way inferior when compared to the others. The others didn't have such an incisive and effective method. And after the massacre, according to the calculations of an AI, there was a 95% chance that he would be ranked within the top 10, a 32% chance of being ranked within the top 5, and an 11% chance of being ranked within the top 3. If this calculation was true, it was almost certain that he would become one of the 10 heavenly kings. Next, what he needed to do was to wait for his actual ranking to be revealed. When he thought of this, he naturally wouldn't be as nervous as ordinary people. He simply waited patiently. However, the people in the surroundings weren't the same. Comments were already flying everywhere. Who do you guys think would be selected as the 10 heavenly kings? I'm also curious. Who are the strongest kings among our Great Wall Army? Martial Queen Zhao Yui should be one of the candidates, right? Also, her ranking absolutely isn't bad. In addition, there's Ye's Pendragon. The sword in the stone is extremely famous and it's extremely effective when used to kill the spirit race monsters. That's right. That's because he is favored by nature, gaining an inherent advantage due to his birth. All sorts of discussions rang out with regard to the positions of the 10 heavenly kings. They were extremely curious about what sort of battle achievements were needed for one to qualify as one of the 10 heavenly kings. All of them, the ones who participated in the final battle, couldn't help but feel nervous. They felt that they were fortunate enough to survive. As for those who knew their own capabilities, they were also exceedingly curious about who the 10 heavenly kings would be. Countless gazes turned to the star battle marshal. Their gazes were filled with anticipation, waiting for him to announce the list of names. Upon seeing so much anticipation, the star battle marshal satisfyingly nodded his head. He then announced, the 10th heavenly king, Nicholas Caden from Saw Planet of the Rome Federation. His cultivation base is at the Elite Adept realm and he has awakened an angel-type mythological gene. His holy flame can purify all evil and has slain 2 gigantic scale spirit beasts, 21 large-scale spirit beasts, 192 spirit monsters in the final battle. According to the military achievements, he is ranked 10th and will gain the title, the Sacred Light Heavenly King. After that, a young man with golden hair as radiant as the sun walked out in high spirits. He waved his hands to the crowd as he advanced. In the holographic projection by the AI, a scene of him transforming into a 6-winged angel could be seen. He controlled pure white, blazing holy flames to incinerate the spirit race monsters to cinders. When everyone saw this, they nodded and praised him in admiration. So it is him. This is a rarely seen young genius from the Rome Federation. He is walking on an angel-type mythological path and can already transform into a 6-winged angel. Truly impressive. He deserves his reputation and is undoubtedly qualified to be one of the 10 heavenly kings. However, he is merely at the bottom of the 10 heavenly kings with his elite adept cultivation base. How powerful would the other 9 be? Experts among experts. There would always be stronger people. These people continued praising. The star battle marshal didn't delay and continued to recite. The 9th heavenly king, Chen Donglai from the Shaolin planet of the Huaxia Star Republic. His cultivation base is at the elite adept realm, and he has awakened an Arhat-type mythological gene known as the Vajra Arhat. He shines with Buddhic light, which delivers the evil ghosts and demons. He slew a total of 3 gigantic scale spirit beasts, 32 large-scale spirit beasts, and 216 spirit monsters. He is ranked 9th and will obtain the title of Vajra Heavenly King. The 8th Heavenly King, Budweiser Franklin from the Black Sea planet of the Bermuda Star region. His cultivation base is at the Adept Elite realm and has awakened a shaman-type mythological gene. He can control spirits and ghosts with ease and killed a total of 3 gigantic scale spirit beasts, 39 large-scale spirit beasts, 316 spirit monsters. He is ranked 8th and is given the title, the Soul Shaman Heavenly King. Every time the marshal announced the name of a Heavenly King, cheering sounds would rise. Those chosen stepped out. Their faces were filled with pride as they took in the gazes of envy and cheerings from the others. The holographic projection flashed, showing their heroic acts on the battlefield, convincing the masses. No objections could be heard at all. In truth, each of the 10 Heavenly Kings was selected through careful analysis from the AI, thus, nothing could manipulate the results. It was impossible to falsify such information. If someone dared to try anything funny when the marshals investigated, no one would be able to bear the weight of such responsibility. The 5th Heavenly King, Li Feishue from the Cold Earth planet of the Chaotic Star region. His cultivation base is at the Elite Adept realm and has awakened an Ice Dragon-type mythological gene. He can control absolute frost and even freeze time and space. He heavily injured one of the spirit black holes, killed 12 gigantic scale spirit beasts, 101 large-scale spirit beasts, and 672 spirit monsters. He is ranked 5th and has obtained the title of Ice Dragon Heavenly King. Very soon, the marshal already announced the name of the 5th Heavenly King. As the rankings went up, the battle achievements became even more terrifying. This allowed everyone else to see that even among Heavenly Kings, the disparity between them was also exceedingly great. Time continued to flow. Now, all the 7 Heavenly Kings had cultivation bases at the Elite Adept realm. Seems like the top 3 Heavenly Kings would be even stronger. What cultivation bases would they have exactly? Zhao Yui's name hasn't been announced yet. Given her capabilities, there shouldn't be a problem for her to be in the top 3. That's right. The reputation of the Martial Queen isn't false. Numerous comments flooded the star web. The Great Wall University is growing stronger and more prosperous. None of their Heavenly Kings named so far had a cultivation base below the Elite Adept realm. Truly impressive. Seems like the disparity in strength between them and the other top universities would only widen more and more in the future. All sorts of conjectures could be heard. But ultimately, no one mentioned Feng Lin's name. Although he was already quite famous in the Great Wall University, his cultivation base was simply too low. Evidently, no one felt that he would be able to become one of the Heavenly Kings. Only Feng Lin himself and Zhao Yui felt that he had a chance. Junior brother Feng, I didn't expect you to be so awesome. Your cultivation base is only at the Adept realm and your name hasn't been announced yet. I believe you are the only one among Adepts that were qualified to be in the top 3. Zhao Yui transmitted her voice to him from afar. Senior sister Zhao, you praised me too much. I might not even be in the rankings. Feng Lin's eyes showed a hint of worry. Although his heart told him he would definitely be among the top 10, seeing that his name hadn't been announced yet, he couldn't help but feel anxious. According to his own AI's calculation, he only had an 11% chance to be in the top 3. No matter how calm Feng Lin was normally, it was inevitable for him to feel some fluctuations in his heart at this moment. I didn't overpraise you. You are too humble. Zhao Yui shook her head. We fought together before, and I understand your achievements very well. You are definitely not inferior to the other Heavenly Kings. Her gentle words were like a consolation, trying to urge him not to feel fretful. Feng Lin smiled. He didn't say anything and continued to wait. The fourth heavenly king, Zhurong Yan from the blazing fire planet of Huaxia Star Republic. His cultivation base is at the elite adept realm, and he is walking on the Zhurong mythological path. He can control boundless flames to burn all living things. He killed a spirit black hole, 18 gigantic scale spirit beasts, 122 large-scale spirit beasts, and 429 spirit monsters. He is ranked 4th and is given the title of a Blazing Flames Heavenly King. A handsome young man with black hair and yellow skin stood up, clasping his hand as he glanced in all directions. After him, the gazes of everyone changed again. Quickly look, only the top 3 is left. The first 3 heavenly kings are definitely more powerful than our imagination. What cultivation bases would they have? They should at least be grand adepts or at the late phase of elite adept realm, right? Everyone unknowingly held their breaths. As for the 4th heavenly king, his smile stiffened and vanished as everyone's attention was diverted from him. The Star Battle Marshal didn't hesitate and continued to speak. The 3rd heavenly king, Ye's Pendragon from the Shadow planet of the Europa Alliance. His cultivation base is at the adept elite realm, and he is walking on King Arthur mythological path. He controls the mythological treasure, the sword in the stone. He killed a spirit black hole, 22 gigantic scale spirit beasts, 167 large-scale beasts, and 562 spirit monsters. His merit placed him in 3rd place, and his title will be the Divine Sword Heavenly King. As expected, it is him. Ye's Pendragon. The British Star region is located in an independent region within the territories of the Europa Alliance. This Ye's is a prince. His status is noble and he is so powerful. Who might the other 2 be? A mountain taller than a mountain. I believe the 2nd and 1st heavenly kings would be even more powerful. My name isn't mentioned yet. Feng Lin's heart stirred. With the martial queen Zhao Yue being present, Feng Lin didn't feel that his achievements could surpass hers given that everyone had forgotten about him. By calculating it this way, there was only a possibility that he would be ranked number 2 if he was chosen. If the marshal didn't mention his name next, that meant. Right now, even for Feng Lin who had an iron will, he couldn't help but feel worried and apprehensive. Now that things had reached this point, it was impossible for his emotions to remain unchanged. Feng Lin was only a human, not a god yet. He couldn't be 100% sure of everything. Fortunately, something genuine would always have value no matter what the situation was. The Star Battle Marshal's eyebrows twitched. He was evidently surprised by the information he just saw. He cast a deep glance at Feng Lin before he spoke. The 2nd heavenly king, Feng Lin from planet Earth of the solar system. His cultivation base is at the adept realm and it's unknown which mythological path he is walking on. His spirit force is like a sharp blade, enabling him to kill all the spirit race with ease. He killed a spirit black hole, 58 gigantic scale spirit beast, 362 large-scale beast, and 708 spirit monsters. He is ranked 2nd in terms of achievements, and his title will be the Spirit-Slaying Heavenly King. What? Feng Lin is the 2nd Heavenly King? But isn't his cultivation base only at the Adept realm? Is there something wrong with the AI? Someone from the desolate solar system actually became a Heavenly King in the Great Wall University? How heaven-defying. His battle achievements are simply too terrifying. How did he manage to do this? Although everyone knew the Star Battle Marshal wouldn't say something like that randomly, when they heard it, everyone instinctively let out gasps of surprise. Countless gazes turned to Feng Lin, as sharp as swords, wanting to penetrate him through. No one here knew how Feng Lin had achieved this. But very soon, the holographic projection gave them their answer. Under the dark starry sky, a lanky figure with a metal cudgel in his hand had a formless, transparent barrier around him, isolating all invading energies. His metal cudgel swept out as he advanced forth courageously, brimming with power as if wanting to shatter this space completely. Spirit force augmented his strike, transforming into an invisible Tao as he killed the spirit race monsters. What ability is that? It's simply the bane of all spirits. Spirit-slaying Heavenly King. This name is truly apt. Although his cultivation base is only at the adept level, his battle achievements are really shocking, capable of breaching the disparity of cultivation base. Facts speak louder than words. Gradually, the number of doubting voices also lessened. But for some elite adepts who didn't manage to become one of the Heavenly Kings, their expressions were now extremely ugly to behold. They all felt a burning sensation on their faces. The first Heavenly King is Zhao Yui from Wudong planet of the Huaxia Star Republic. Her cultivation base is at the elite adept level and is walking on the Jinwu mythological path. She is a true martial artist known as the Martial Queen that vanquished all her foes with ease. She killed a spirit black hole, 62 gigantic scale spirit beasts, 398 large-scale spirit beasts, and 769 spirit monsters. Her battle achievements are ranked the first. Her title will be the True Martial Heavenly King. After Zhao Yui was revealed to be the first Heavenly King, the grand meeting of victory drew to a close. Feng Lin lowered his gaze, turned, and left. From the start until now, he didn't care about the strange looks others shot at him. In truth, he didn't give a damn about the opinion of others. Now, Feng Lin was only concerned about one thing. The final battle had ended, and he had awakened the Sun Wukong gene. Next, he had to put all his effort into his cultivation and continue to grow stronger. What sort of scenery would he see next while walking on the Sun Wukong mythological path? Chapter 455, Endless Transformations. Translator, Lord Bluefire. Editor, Lord Bluefire. Name, Feng Lin. Vitality stat, 18,289. Hotian gene, Sun Wukong gene x1. Heaven gene, Monkey King gene x10, Daoheart gene x10. Transcendent gene, Spiritual Stone Monkey gene x10, Beast King gene x10. Primeval genes, Stone Monkey gene x10, Spirit gene x10, Bestial gene x9, Violence gene x8, Coercion gene x6. Basic genes, Monkey gene x10, Stone Birth gene x10, Adrenaline gene x4, Mental gene x9, Psychokinesis gene x6, Spirituality gene x8, Bloodthirst gene x10, Beast Heart gene x7, Strength gene x9, Savage gene x8, Pressure gene x8, Prestige gene x6. Genetic potential, 23,890. The brand new life information was displayed and Feng Lin's eyes gleamed with light. His spirit force was as sharp as a sword, spreading outwards and causing others to not dare to look him in the eyes. Vitality stat of 18,289. He just needed one more step to improve the Sun Wukong gene and allow his vitality stat to break through the 20,000 mark. For cultivators, the difference of each realm was like the disparity between the different levels of heaven. He was completely born anew. The Sun Wukong gene was as expected of a mythological gene that belonged to a paragon-level mythological path. Each of its tiers was perfect grade and invincible among the same level. His vitality stat also surpassed his peers. From the looks of things, once he broke through to the late phase of the Adept realm, he would be powerful enough to fight equally with cultivators of the elite Adept realm. He managed to become the second Heavenly King with a cultivation base at the Adept level. Feng Lin was very clear that countless people would be jealous of him and would be waiting for him to screw up. Weakness was the original sin. This is the greatest logic in the world. The position of a Heavenly King was just far too tempting. Most probably, many people wanted to challenge him. Even if they couldn't seize the title away from him, as long as they could defeat a Heavenly King, they could boast about how glorious it was. The tree wants to be still, but the wind doesn't allow it. A large tree would always attract the wind. Feng Lin understood this in his heart. He wasn't foolish. But this was only for a period. As long as his cultivation base reached the late phase of the Adept realm, Ordinary elite adepts would be like vegetables on a chopping board if they dared to fight against him. At that time, he really wanted to see what the expressions on their faces would be like. A cold smile appeared on Feng Lin's face as he immersed himself in his cultivation. The Sun Wukong gene was just awakened by him. This gene shared the same name as his Sun Wukong mythological path. It was a gene at a level where it could allow him to achieve a qualitative transformation. His heart stirred as information about this gene of his appeared before his eyes. Gene, Sun Wukong gene. Grade, perfect grade Hotian gene. Strengthening tally, 1. Ability, the grand grade Heavenly Immortal verifies his Tao fruit, proficient in the 72 transformations. Perfect Hotian gene. What was Hotian? It meant anything that was not innate. It referred to everything acquired by one's efforts after they were born. It meant everything that was born after the heavens and earth was created. The chaos split apart, opening up the heavens and earth. Hotian lifeforms referred to some extremely powerful lifeforms that had reached a certain limit in the universe. In this world, they had an aura of invincibility to them. Only such people could be considered Hotian lifeforms. And Hotian genes also represented certain profound mysteries with regards to the laws of heaven and earth. What did the Sun Wukong gene represent? The grand grade Heavenly Immortal art verifies his Tao fruit, proficient in the 72 transformations. Under the immersion of his heart monkey force, rays of treasured light were emitted from his body. His blood, his flesh, his bones, his cells, each part of his body was flooded by transcendence force. His entire body was undergoing a qualitative change at the genetic level. It gradually transformed into a type of matter that was non-energy and non-material. Although it maintained its physical quality, it also existed in a strange energy-like state. This was a profound transformation involving the true nature of the universe. Feng Lin drew in a deep breath. He only felt that everywhere his heart monkey force flowed into, the universe would form a resonance with him. Each tiny cell in his body would breathe and shake, while faint runes could be seen within them as well. These runes would change according to his will, transforming to whatever he had a resonance with. Endless transformations. A burst of insight flashed in Feng Lin's heart. He spread his hands out, and his heart monkey force began to sweep through his surroundings. It was like he was sending out invisible tentacles to take root in the universe itself, allowing him to control the laws of the universe, bending them to his wills and thoughts. With just a wisp of his will, endless transformations would occur. Wind would rise, water would gather and freeze, thunder would manifest, fire would burn. All of these energies were under his control, containing countless transformations. This time, Feng Lin's ability wasn't as restricted as to when he had used the Monkey King domain previously. The Ye domain, the limits in terms of distance, had dispersed. After all, the size of the boundary completely depended on how much heart monkey force he had. In theory, as long as he was strong enough, even the entire universe could be part of his domain. His power now seemed boundlessly vast. This was also the reason why Feng Lin could destroy the calamity when he was clearly just at the adept realm. Gathering the light of souls of everyone and controlling its usage. In that instant, he felt like his existence had touched upon the realm of gods. Water and fire transformed into mist. Wind and mist transformed into clouds. Clouds and wind transformed into lightning. Lightning created fire upon impact. Fire burned the earth, causing a storm of sand to gather. Under the control of his spirit force, countless phenomena appeared. Truly, this scene could only be described by the words endless transformations. The spiritual stone monkey was proficient in transformation, understood astrology and geography, and could even cause stars to shift their positions. However, endless transformations were the true source of power of the heart monkey. The heart could be boundlessly vast, so could one's strength. The states of energy rapidly transformed. This time, Feng Lin had the intention of testing where the true limits of his strength lay. A ball of energy floated in the air. It would occasionally crackle with lightning, burn with fire, frozen by ice, the states of energy changed continuously. Feng Lin finally felt mental fatigue when the changes reached 1,000 times. He couldn't continue any longer. Soon after, he understood in his heart. Right now, the strengthening tally of the Sun Wukong gene was only at 1, thus, the number of times he could transform a matter was at most 1,000 times. As the Sun Wukong gene continued to be strengthened, the number of times he could transform something would also increase, 1,000 for each increase. If he maxed it out at 10 points, that would reach 10,000 transformations or the so-called endless transformations. Once one maxed out the mythological gene, they could transform into a mythological creature similar to the gene. At that time, Feng Lin would become the true Sun Wukong, possessing the ability of endless transformations and capable of almost anything in the world. Good divine ability. Feng Lin mumbled when he sensed the power of the gene. His heart remained calm, but even so, it was inevitable for joy to appear on his face right now. The Sun Wukong gene was as expected of a perfect grade Houtian gene. This ability of endless transformations could be said to be peerless at the same level. Feng Lin could transform freely, and this was sufficient for him to deal with any complex situation. In truth, it was not only so. This endless transformation wasn't simply energy control of the external world. It also meant that he could perfectly control the changes in his body. Feng Lin's thoughts caused his will to move. His own transformation immediately occurred. He became a white tiger, then a malevolent figure resembling a savage crocodile, then a stone on the ground that showed no signs of life. Endless transformations. This naturally meant that he could change anything and transform into anything. This was similar to controlling energy in the external world. The transformation of himself was also limited to 1,000 times. And if the object he wanted to transform into was too complex, his heart monkey force would be depleted even faster, causing him to have less number of transformations. As he grew increasingly familiar with the ability of the gene, Feng Lin then turned his attention onto the gene itself. In the human genetic map, an astral river akin to a bridge linked 3 golden constellations together, forming a triangular structure. Monkey King gene X10 plus Dao Heart gene X10 equals Sun Wukong gene. And what Feng Lin was concerned about was what his future path would be. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Different level genes had sequences to them, they were filled with profound mysteries and logic, faintly involving the laws of the universe. Level 4 genes were known as Houtian genes, while level 5 genes were known as Xiantian genes. What was Xiantian? It meant everything that had existed before the birth of the heavens and earth. A Xiantian lifeform referred to those primordial lifeforms that shared longevity with the heavens and earth. Their lifespan was endless. The deduction of mythological paths required the mythological characters from the legends to provide clues and guide them. They had to research the ancients before they could perform a step-by-step deduction. With regard to his own cultivation, Feng Lin already had some sense of it. He didn't feel trapped and instantly began to deduce. He hypothesized the level 5 gene of the Sun Wukong mythological path to be the horse protector gene and began his deduction, but contrary to his expectation, the genetic equation didn't seem to work. His genetic potential wasn't reduced at all. What? Something's wrong. Feng Lin was startled as such a situation actually occurred. Could it be that the path he hypothesized was wrong, resulting in the genetic equation not being able to work? In that case, there was a problem. What's the gene after the Sun Wukong gene? The Great Sage equal to the Heavens gene. No, this couldn't be the case. According to his mythological knowledge, Feng Lin was very clear about this. There was still a very large distance between Sun Wukong and the Great Sage equal to Heavens, something which he would become in the future. The gap wasn't something the increase of just a level would be able to mitigate. The truth was like this as well. The Great Sage equal to the Heavens gene was his target, but the genetic equation seemed ineffective, it was not working at all. In that case, what's the next gene? Feng Lin was in deep thoughts. There were simply too many mysteries concealed within mythologies. Even when you thought you knew all there was to know about a mythology, that would only mean that you sank into a knowledge barrier, which blocked you from any more future discoveries about the other mysteries. The path of one's mythological genes was within the myths and legends. They originated from there, hence, one had to find out the mysteries of their genes within the respective mythology where their genes originated from. Feng Lin sat cross-legged on the ground and sank into deep contemplation. His mind was spinning at great speed. He, who had become an adept, had a vitality stat over 10,000. His physique was extremely powerful, and his intelligence was enhanced greatly as well. At this moment, Feng Lin's brain could be compared to an AI. It began to extract all the information he knew about Sun Wukong as he began to dissect and analyze, trying to deduce something. All of a sudden, a memory suddenly sprang up in his vision. Within the cycle of heavens, there were 5 immortals, namely heaven, earth, god, human, and ghost. And also 5 mortal creatures, namely scales, feathers, fur, insects, and shell. Other than them, there was also one more category known as the sea, a creature that was completely different from the others. Not belonging to these categories was the 4 chaotic world monkeys. The first was the spiritual stone monkey that was proficient in transformation, understood astrology and geography, and could cause stars to change positions. The second was the crimson-back macaque that controlled yin and yang, understood the affairs of humans and kind by nature. It could even evade death and prolong its life. The third was the Tongbi ape that could seize the sun and the moon, wrap around 1,000 mountains, and even control fate. The fourth was the 6-eared macaque that could hear things from extremely far away and was good at investigation. It excelled at knowing the past and foretelling the future, understanding the nature of all living things. These 4 monkeys were excluded from the 10 categories, not being a part of the system. For chaotic world monkeys? Feng Lin's eyes suddenly opened, gleaming with a bright light. As he came to this conclusion, at the next instant, a surge of energy from his dantian began to flow through his genetic map. Something was going on. Could this conjecture be correct? Genetic potential -120, -120-120. His potential rapidly reduced. With the Sun Wukong gene as the starting point, another clear path of genetic combination appeared before him. Things were the same as the past. The Sun Wukong mythology path was a paragon mythological path. It was unique and every stage of it had just a single and unique genetic formula. Feng Lin smiled as a brand new formula floated before his eyes. Sun Wukong gene X10 plus cultivation gene X10 equals chaotic world demonic monkey gene. Chapter 456, I'm a chaotic world demonic monkey. Sun Wukong gene X10 plus cultivation gene X10 equals chaotic world demonic monkey gene. 10 was the perfect number. Thus, the genetic formula would seem familiar. The Sun Wukong mythological path was a paragon mythological path and it pursued the extreme. When every gene was strengthened to 10 points, it would faintly contain the supreme logic of heavens and earth and achieve a magical transformation. The Monkey King gene would become the higher-level Sun Wukong gene while the Tao Heart gene would become the cultivation gene. An incomparably large constellation, a star that could illuminate the darkness, was currently in a state of deep sleep, waiting to be awakened. It faintly radiated an ancient air of desolation. The chaotic world demonic monkey gene, it is outside the 3 realms, not within the 5 elements. This simple-looking sentence actually contained extraordinary meaning that was worthy of deep contemplation. The 3 realms represented the heaven, earth, and man. They were the fundamentals of life. The 5 elements were the source energy of the world. Outside the 3 realms, not of the 5 elements. What realm is that? A chaotic world demonic monkey? If I broke through to the next step, will I have the essence of a chaotic world demonic monkey? Feng Lin's thoughts spun rapidly. He couldn't deduce what sort of realm would that be. Were the 3 realms and 5 elements considered a gigantic sort of restraint? What would happen if he broke through it? Would there be a new heaven and earth awaiting him? Simply unimaginable. Right now, it was like he was a frog in the well. He was unable to see the outside world. He could only come up with more conjectures, but what he thought up might not be the truth. Phong Lin didn't overthink things. When his cultivation base reached the equivalent level, he would naturally understand these. The path was already beneath his feet, and he merely needed to walk on it step by step. Why was there a need to rush things? Genetic potential minus 3268. As his cultivation improved, just using the genetic equation to derive a genetic formula already caused him to expend so much genetic potential. Phong Lin didn't stop because of this. His gaze turned to the other Houtian gene. Gene, cultivation gene. Grade, perfect grade Houtian gene. Strengthening index, 0. Ability, defy the heavens and cultivate, transcending mortality and entering sainthood. As expected, it was another perfect grade gene. The introduction was extremely simple, yet it filled Phong Lin with boundless imagination. Gods were born together with the heavens and earth, just like the great Tao. All Xiantian gods and saints pursued Tao combination. This was known as obeying the heavens. The divine Taoists emphasized on obeying the heavens, executing their will to improve one's position. Only mortals had to defy the heavens to cultivate. The purpose of their cultivation was to shed their mortal coils and to achieve transcendence. This action was clear defiance of the heavens, as the heavens and earth wouldn't accept this. Could it be that this cultivation gene had an ability to assist others in cultivation? A perfect grade gene truly deserved its reputation. Although it was a support-type gene, it didn't really matter. One's own strength was the most important. Maybe the cultivation gene itself didn't possess too much might. It didn't have those wondrous-sounding fantastic abilities, but it could allow one's cultivation base to rapidly improve. In fact, from a certain perspective, it was even stronger than any kind of genetic ability. Strength overcomes everything. As long as his genetic force was strong enough, even if it was the most basic comparison of strength, it was sufficient for him to dominate everything. The appearance of genetic forces was nothing more than the external display of matter and energy. In the universe, there were countless constellations of all forms and shapes. But ultimately, there were only 4 basic types of energy. Electromagnetic force, gravity, the strong nuclear force, and weak nuclear force. It was tough for Phong Lin to imagine if there was really a powerful character who could control these 4 basic types of forces. How terrifying would an existence at that level be? Different routes but lead to the same destination. The great Taoists would eventually join as one. When genetic cultivation and technology were developed to a certain extent, they would eventually merge together. This was already the interstellar era. If one wanted to cultivate to a higher realm and neglected the development of science and technology, that would truly be a foolish choice. Upon discovering the crux, Phong Lin felt that his comprehension of cultivation had deepened even further. How should he awaken the cultivation gene? What combination of lower-level genes was this formed from? This was a tough question. Any branch of the genetic tree had to evolve step by step from the basic genes. At this level, from the basic genes and upwards, it needed to evolve 4 more times. Phong Lin expended his genetic potential, setting his target at the cultivation gene as he began to deduce the formula. His genetic potential rapidly reduced, like floodwaters breaking a dam, flowing into the genetic equation. Genetic potential minus 102, minus 101, -103. For the evolutionary formula of a Houtian gene, it caused Phong Lin to expend over 1,000 genetic potential before he managed to get the formula. Cultivation gene equals cultivating gene x11 plus cultivating knowledge gene x9. This was a type of gene that required 2 heaven genes to combine before it could be formed. Each of the heaven genes was extraordinary, possessing their own abilities. Gene, cultivating gene. Grade, perfect heaven gene. Strengthening index, 0. Ability, cultivating to enter sainthood, transcending one's mortal coil, transforming one's bones. Gene, cultivation knowledge gene. Grade, perfect heaven gene. Strengthening index, 0. Ability, cultivation knowledge as 1, all for my usage. The abilities of these two genes were different. One was more inclined to the control of power while the other one was more inclined to aiding cultivation. The cultivating gene was like the weaker version of the cultivation gene at the heaven gene level. It was also a gene that could aid cultivators. However, it could only allow one to speed up the rate of their improvement, achieving a quicker breakthrough while the cultivation gene paid more attention to all aspects of cultivation. Once one's cultivation broke through, they would instantly be able to rapidly gain control of their own power, achieving the extent of perfect control. This was the ability of the cultivation knowledge gene. Cultivation alone usually didn't equate to true combat strength. This was also why there was a disparity in terms of combat prowess when it came to cultivators on the same level. These two genes were heaven genes. Later on, they would continue to extend until the basic genes appeared. Each would show a genetic tree with branches spreading out like a stairway that was unable to be stepped across, containing the theory of mythological genes. The higher one's cultivation base was, the more the number of mythological genes one would possess in their body. Cultivation would be increasingly complex. In the end, one's genetic map would resemble the countless stars in the sky. Ordinary humans could spend all their entire life, and it might still be difficult for them to probe out a complete genetic evolution sequence. But to Phong Lin, this merely meant the expenditure of genetic potential despite the fact that it was increasingly greater. He used the genetic equation and started his deduction. Genetic potential minus 58, minus 60, 62. As his genetic potential was depleted, he already managed to deduce 2 dark stars. After that, the extension continued, connecting 2 more. The dark stars continued to lit up, and the extension continued as well. A total of 4 levels were connected, forming a complete genetic evolution path. The first level was the Hotian gene evolution sequence. The second level was the heaven genes evolution sequence. The formula was as shown below. Cultivating gene equals rootbone gene x7 plus comprehension gene x6 plus luck gene x8. Cultivation knowledge gene equals knowledge understanding gene x9 plus action gene x8. The third level was the sequence of evolution for transcendent genes. The fourth level was the sequence of evolution for primeval genes. The fifth level was the bottom layer, the sequence of evolution for basic genes. The genetic sequence for each level was different. He carried out many deductions, eventually deducing a complete evolution path that allowed a mortal to begin walking toward the divine. Chapter 457, Cultivation Gene. With the cultivation gene as the peak point, flowing from top to bottom after 4 rounds of evolution, a genetic tree branch alongside the Sun Wukong gene was formed. This scene made Phong Lin extremely happy, warming his heart and filling it with delight. He began to evolve the gene starting from the basic genes, slowly nurturing a tree sprout to now where the embryonic form of a giant tree could gradually be seen. This was a tree whose crown reached the heavens. Its roots were embedded in mortal soil as its trunk shot upwards, resembling a kingly throne for the gods. The growth of every segment of the genetic tree represented that he was nearing the final path. In the interstellar era, compared to wealth and authority, strength was the greatest achievement. These days, even mortals could reach the heavens. How magnificent was this? Every time one saw the growth of their genetic tree, their morales would surely be boosted. And for awakening the cultivation gene, Phong Lin had to start from the lowest level and slowly evolving upwards, expending an extremely large amount of genetic points. He needed a total of 13,600 free genetic potential. And the conditions to evolve the mythological genes were all different. Evolving so many genes was truly an exhausting matter where he had to spend a great deal of effort. Just by performing the deduction, he already expended a total of 6,000 genetic potential. After some time, he was only left with 14,280. Nevertheless, the heart monkey sought the Tao. Feng Lin no longer had any questions toward his cultivation. His heart stirred and his genetic potential rapidly reduced. Genetic potential -102, -101-99. From basic genes awakening to primeval genes awakening to transcendent genes awakening. After experiencing the mythological illusionscape, his Tao heart was clear, nothing puzzling him. He naturally managed to awaken the required genes. His genetic potential flowed over as numerous dark stars in his genetic map lit up, shining with golden light. Innate talent gene awakening, +1, +1, +1. Discernment gene awakening, +1, +1, +1. Fortune gene awakening, +1, +1, +1. As each awakened gene was enhanced to the max, a certain condition seemed to have been fulfilled. The genetic formula automatically activated and the golden constellations emitted beams of golden starlight that intersected with each other, forming astral rivers that extended into the depths of his starry space. Bat hump, bat hump, bat hump. The sound of a powerful heart could be heard beating. As the starlight flowed, 5 previously dark gigantic stars began to lit up and were rapidly enhanced. Rootbone gene, +1, +1, +1. Comprehension gene, +1, +1, +1. Luck gene, +1, +1, +1. Knowledge understanding gene, +1, +1, +1. Action gene, +1, +1, +1. After they were maxed out, they continued to evolve as the 2 heaven genes were awakened. Cultivating gene, +1, +1, +1. Cultivation knowledge gene, +1, +1, +1. From nothing to something, from the bottom to the top. This was the most difficult. Feng Lin was already an adept cultivator. However, he still had to perform reverse deduction to deduce the genetic sequence. After some time, it was a complete success, with no shackle to be found as the evolution process continued smoothly. The genes in the genetic map lit up one by one, resembling the brightest stars in the night sky that illuminated the entire area. This scene was extremely striking. Cultivating gene X11 plus cultivation knowledge gene X9 equals cultivation gene. Finally, a gigantic golden constellation side by side, the Sun Wukong genes suddenly lit up, brimming with brilliance. Bang, bang, bang. It pounded with force resembling a powerful heartbeat. At this moment, Feng Lin's life information changed. Name, Feng Lin. Vitality stat, 28,200. Hotian genes, Sun Wukong gene X1, cultivation gene X1. Heaven genes, Monkey King gene X10, Tao Heart gene X10. Genetic potential, 1200. The rapid evolution caused his vitality stat to increase greatly. When the second Hotian gene was awakened, it instantly pushed Feng Lin's vitality stat to a new level, officially breaking past the 20,000 mark. Feng Lin languidly opened his eyes. His gaze was serene, shining with a bright light. His spirit force congealed and spread outwards, causing the space to tremble and form churning ripples that were visible to the naked eye. For a time, the place he stood at became the eye of the tempest. Energy waves began to rise around him. Wind, fire, lightning, and thunder repeatedly manifested in the air, causing a chaotic flow. This was only external change. Within his body, a wondrous feeling appeared in Feng Lin's heart. He peered inwards and could see that each cell in his body was filled with vital force, brimming with so much power that it felt like overflowing spring water. The flow seemed endless, inundating all of his cells, each droplet of his blood, his organs. Every part of his body was immersed within the spring water, brimming with overwhelmingly powerful might. His body had the duality aspect, capable of changing between matter and energy as he willed. And in the external world, the breathing of his cells seemed to synchronize with heavens and earth, which allowed him to control boundless energy. Everything could be sensed clearly in his perception. Breath in, breath out. The spiritual chi from the surroundings gathered, turning into gusts of wind and wrapping him within a gigantic vortex. Genetic potential plus 69, plus 69, plus 70. Even without external aid, Feng Lin's current cultivation speed was extremely shocking. Each spiritual chi particle burst forth with a transcendent glow, seeping deep into each of his cells and changing the base matter as his cells underwent a qualitative evolution toward a higher life form. Cultivation didn't cease, his evolution was like the surging tides, wave after wave flowing forth in an unending manner. His cultivation gene was activated, and his heart monkey force was like countless invisible hands that rapidly grabbed outwards, greedily absorbing the spiritual chi into his body. Feng Lin felt like he was floating in the clouds. He was enveloped by boundless spiritual chi that seeped into his body from all his pores, nourishing every nook and cranny. Cultivation actually made him feel so high. It felt that his life had already reached the climax, he had already reached the peak. Feng Lin couldn't help it and added a Houtian genetic point onto the cultivation gene. Cultivation gene plus 2. Once the point was added, a drastic change instantly occurred. The speed of which the spiritual chi in the surroundings gathered quickened even more. The vortex grew larger, surging into his body with increased speed. Although Feng Lin didn't intentionally control it, his body had now seemingly become a gigantic black hole that naturally attracted spiritual energy like how hundreds of birds would fly into the forest. Genetic potential plus 120, plus 118, plus 122. Feng Lin felt as though his entire person was filled to the brim, almost to the point of exploding. His genetic potential continued to surge. By logic, cultivation would only be more difficult the nearer it got toward the end. It was extremely tough to improve. But after he awakened the cultivation gene, Feng Lin's cultivation speed didn't slow down, and it increased instead. Although he wasn't cultivating, his genetic potential continued to increase at a fast speed. In fact, Feng Lin faintly felt that as long as he activated the cultivation gene, even if he didn't cultivate intentionally, the gene would allow him to naturally be in a permanent cultivating state. Thus, his cultivation base would be improved automatically. Moreover, the cultivation gene was a perfect grade Houtian gene and clearly couldn't only have just a single ability. Feng Lin continued to probe deeply, but he still couldn't sense anything clearly. The mysteries of the mythological genes ultimately had to be searched for and unlocked through myths and legends. Since the war was over, he had sufficient time to probe. Feng Lin folded hand gestures. His consciousness began to sink endlessly, entering a misty celestial realm. The peaks of the tall mountains here were buried in the clouds. This place seemed to be the holy ground of immortals and celestials. A monkey was seated cross-legged at the peak of a mountain with its eyes closed. A calm and unruffled aura could be sensed from it as it glowed inwardly with divine light. It showed no signs of wildness and seemed to be completely at peace. It didn't appear to be a monkey in the wilderness, but seemed to be a grandmaster that had achieved the Tao. A beam of spiritual light suddenly descended from the sky. Chapter 458, Subhoodie imparting the Tao. The flowers bloomed and withered, another year had passed. Mountains within the Fengsuan mountain range had immortals. The immortal chi was misty, and the auspicious clouds filled the air, brimming with a sense of spirituality that caused one's heart to be as still as water. The sky was filled with cirrus clouds, which was drifting leisurely through the air. On a mountain peak, a golden-furred monkey sat cross-legged. Its chest heaved up and down as it breathed in and out. Spiritual chi flowed around it, forming a spiraling vortex with him at the center. The aura radiating from it rapidly strengthened at a speed visible to the naked eye. Its aura was retracted, yet it was as vast as the abyss. The monkey stood up. An unruffled and calm aura could be sensed from it, like it was an eminent reverend that had achieved the Tao. It showed no signs of being a wild animal. Evidently, the monkey's state of heart had developed and reached the next level. The ruthless chi in his heart was also suppressed to the extreme, and it would never be able to control its actions ever again. Sun Wukong, as the Monkey King, had long since been used to rule with tyranny on the Flower Fruit Mountain. There was an innate surge of ruthless chi in his heart, which also undoubtedly increased his innate power. But cultivation emphasized on subduing one's heart. If one's mind couldn't calm down, one would often encounter many external demons during cultivation which would then serve as obstructions. It would be tough for the cultivator to advance any further. That stone monkey tempered itself in the mortal world for over 10 years, enduring suffering to intentionally diminish its own impatience and hot temper. But now, he entered the Fengsuan mountain and used heart sutras to temper his mind and heart, subduing the last bits of ruthlessness and wild aura in him. The stone monkey now was no different from a Buddhist cultivator with a profound state of heart and high attainments in the Tao. No waves stirred his heart. Only people whose state of heart reached the grand completion level would be able to reach this realm. Feng Lin understood in his heart that he had only achieved this because of the Measureless Heart Sutra. The monkey slowly walked down the mountain. It was clad in the long robes of humans and was extremely conspicuous. It's none other than this fellow who angered the master. I heard he was even beaten. I wonder why the master didn't want to kick it out from the sect? The master has deep intentions. How can people like us manage to guess his thoughts? When the people saw the monkey walking over, most of them coldly stared at him as they muttered to themselves. However, the monkey's state of heart was already completely different. Its hearing was sharp and it naturally could hear everything they were saying. However, it disregarded them completely, treating their words as nothingness. This time, Feng Lin had sufficient time. He was willing to silently stay in the consciousness of the stone monkey to observe things quietly. He had to experience everything the mythological illusionscape had to offer to probe his complete mythological path, to clear the fog obscuring the mysteries of his cultivation. The stone monkey grew bit by bit, experiencing everything personally to aid his deduction better. It had always been alone in the Fengsuan mountain, not interacting with anyone. Time held no meaning in the mountain. Very swiftly, 3 years had passed. During these days, Master Subhoodie was extremely elusive. He didn't even show up once. It was like Subhoodie, who imparted the Measureless Heart Sutra to the stone monkey, wasn't his original self. Saints could see the past and the future. They possessed boundless might. It was very hard to guess the meaning behind their words. Thus, Feng Lin didn't probe too far rashly without careful consideration, all to prevent accidents from happening in the mythological illusionscape. He just had to continue, endure, and experience everything slowly. Sooner or later, he would uncover all the riddles and mysteries of the entire mythology of Sun Wukong. Why should he be hasty and act carelessly, which might create accidents and troubles? In the blink of an eye, the date where Master Subhoodie imparted the Tao arrived again. Master Subhoodie sat upon the law platform and stared at all the disciples here. His gaze was penetrating, being able to see all changes and manifestation in the world, covering everything with a single glance. Today, I will be preaching about the Tao classics. Subhoodie glanced at the surroundings as he continued, "Do you have any questions?" These cultivators all had faces filled with joy. They exchanged mutual glances. No one dared to speak recklessly for fear of causing the master to change his mind. Upon hearing this, Sun Wukong involuntarily obeyed the wild side of his monkey nature. He danced around and shouted loudly, "Master, Master! I want to listen to it." Compared to the cowardice and the trepidation of others, his actions were as gutsy as ever, almost to the point of tyranny and lawlessness. The master nodded. He wasn't angered and was smiling. "Monkey, you are still as mischievous as ever. But it's fine, seems like your cultivation of the Heart Sutra has reached a high level. Today, what type of Tao do you want to learn from me?" Sun Wukong replied, I will follow Master's instructions. As long as those Daos grant longevity upon mastery, your disciple will learn them all. The master laughed uproariously. The strands of his long beard fluttered in the wind. Monkey, your ambition isn't small. I will tell you guys that there are a total of 360 doors leading to different Daos. Each will eventually lead to the same destination. Which do you want to learn? Upon hearing that the Daos were so convenient, Sun Wukong couldn't help but feel joy. He continued, I will obey Master's will. This disciple will listen carefully. Master Subhoodie then spoke, how about I teach you the A technique of the Door of Tao? Sun Wukong asked, the Tao Door of Technique? What is that? The Tao Door of Technique can allow you to summon some minor immortals to divine the future and aid you to embrace fortune and avoid calamity. Can I gain more longevity from this? You can't. I won't learn it then. How about I teach you the Tao Door of Flow? What doctrine does it contain? The Tao Door of Flow contains doctrines from Confucius, school of Yin-Yang, Taoism, medical, Mahist, and Buddhism. Can I gain longevity from this? No. If you want to gain longevity, you first have to stabilize your inner pillars. Master, I'm a simple man and don't understand deep words. What do you mean by stabilizing my inner pillars? Master Subhoodie replied, when someone constructs a building, the pillars of the building will serve as the foundation. As long as the foundation is solid and stable enough, it wouldn't be a problem even if one wants to build a skyscraper. However, once the pillars are damaged, everything will collapse. This means that it won't last long either. I don't want to learn it. And following that, Subhoodie shared the two Daos of the movement, Hand of Stillness, to Sun Wukong. But because he couldn't gain longevity from this, Sun Wukong shook his head and refused to learn. Earlier, Master Subhoodie seemed extremely casual and easygoing. But now, he was completely enraged by this monkey. Although he exuded a celestial air, once he was angered, his temper was like thunder and lightning and he was quick to take action. Upon hearing that, he leaped down from the platform and pointed an iron ruler at Sun Wukong. Bratty monkey, you don't want to learn anything. What are you staying here for? He then moved forward and used the ruler to hit Sun Wukong 3 times on his head. The monkey shivered from fear, it looked somewhat comical. After that, the master clasped his hand behind his back, directly turned and departed, leaving everyone here, not intending on continuing the lecture. When the others saw Master Subhoodie unprecedentedly revealing his anger, they were extremely frightened and began to blame Sun Wukong. Damn monkey, you are too insolent. Master is imparting the Daos to you, why don't you learn them? Arguing with the master? Now that he is angered, no one knows when the next lecture would be. Daring to make trouble and causing my cultivation to be delayed? I won't let matters rest like this. That monkey wasn't enraged nor embarrassed. It ignored all the ugly words spoken by these people and disregarded them. So it turned out that the monkey had already solved the riddle here. It kept quiet, not bothering to argue with these people, as it also turned to leave. This departure lasted an entire day. The monkey closed its eyes and regulated its breathing, focusing on absorbing the spiritual chi of heavens and earth. After the appointment time arrived, Feng Lin opened his eyes. He wore his robes and opened the door stealthily, avoiding the crowd as he snuck into the depths of the Bodhi cave. Master Subhoodie was curled up, seemed to be sleeping. Sun Wukong didn't dare alarm him. He simply knelt before the bed and waited. After some time, Master Subhoodie suddenly mumbled to himself. Difficult. The Tao is so mysterious. Treating the golden pill as ordinary. All words imparted would only be wasted if I don't meet the correct person to impart the correct Tao. Chapter 459, Grandgrade Heavenly Immortal Art. The melody of the great Tao could be heard in the air, overflowing with immortal intent and brimming with the true meaning of mysteries. Master Subhoodie stretched his body, and when he saw the monkey kneeling on the ground, he coughed. The sound of his cough sounded like a bell. It was like he just discovered this. It's in the middle of the night. Monkey, what are you doing? Sun Wukong replied, Master, your disciple has been kneeling here for a long time. When Master showed up in the lecture earlier, you hinted that disciple should look for you here from 11 to 1 at night to impart me the Tao. Hence, this disciple audaciously came here in the middle of the night and waited for you. Master Subhoodie was actually happy when he heard this. He then silently mused, this monkey is truly birthed by the heavens and earth, or he wouldn't have been able to solve the riddle in my words so easily. Upon seeing the joy of his master, Sun Wukong felt as though he was favored by fortune. He continued, there's no 6 years in this world. I hope Master can be kind enough to pass the art of longevity to me. Sun Wukong will never forget this debt of kindness. After speaking, he bowed deeply in thanks. Right now, the monkey kept his head down and couldn't see Subhoodie's expression clearly. But Feng Lin was deep in the monkey's heart. He could see everything. At this moment, Master Subhoodie's gaze was deep, yet no longer as calm as before. He cast a long look at the stone monkey beneath his feet. His eyes seemed capable of piercing through the long river of time and seeing through all lies and illusions. Right now, Feng Lin was incomparably confident. This Subhoodie was as expected of a saint-level existence. Most probably, when Sun Wukong had come to beg for his tutelage in ancient times, he had already seen the scenes of the future through his connection with Sun Wukong, allowing him to plan for certain contingencies. At this moment, Feng Lin didn't doubt this at all. One must note that since the beginning of time, those supremely powerful existences in the primordial eras had all jumped out of the 3 realms, and no longer consisted of the 5 elements. The heavens and earth might crumble, but they would still be alive, the universe might be destroyed, but it wouldn't affect them. When ancient myths and legends had encountered the calamity of destruction, no one knew what had happened. Most of the gods, deities, and saints had all vanished without a trace. What about those imposing deities on the supreme level like Master Subhoodie? Could they really have vanished just like this as well? Wouldn't they have made preparations for it? This was truly a terrifying thought. For now, Feng Lin still had no way to see through all the mysteries clearly. And at this moment, after remaining silent for some time, Subhoodie finally spoke, I'm happy because we are fated. You managed to discern the riddle and solved it. Since this is the case, listen carefully. I shall impart to you the oracular formula of the Tao of longevity. Sun Wukong kowtowed to convey his thanks. He paid utmost attention and continued kneeling by the bedside. Feng Lin also silently focused. The words of the master were unhurried, seemingly drifting over from the ancient era, filled with mysteries. The truth of the secret art is to cherish life and cultivation. Even concentrating power in one's body, imparting the prosperous Tao. Memorizing the oracular formula is of many benefits, evil desires would be expelled, which would then cause your heart to feel calm and cool. A cool heart would mingle with the purity of light, making one admire the moonlight on a pavilion. The moon hides the jade, the sun hides the golden crow. The tortoise and snake entwined as one. Integration of them both causes the foundation of life to be sturdy and solid, capable of planting golden lodi in fire. The 5 elements can be used as one desires. Upon attainment, one can transform into a Buddha or an immortal. The mysteries of the oracular formula was the impartation of the great Tao. Now, the origin was explained. The mysteries of cultivation was clear to Sun Wukong as well. Sun Wukong felt extremely fortunate. He memorized the oracular formula and thanked his master before leaving the area while contemplating on it endlessly. A glimmer of light shone in the eastern sky. Golden rays filled the air as the sun rose, cascading its glow downwards and lighting up everything below. The stone monkey had crossed the 4 great continents and 5 oceans just to seek the freedom of longevity. His journey had been very tough. He had experienced many setbacks and suffered over tens of years of agony in the human world, as well as enduring the look of disdain that others shot him. Right now, he finally received the compensation he deserved. Even though the stone monkey's state of heart was already extremely calm, unruffled by any waves, he couldn't help but cheer wildly at this moment. He was brimming with satisfaction and arrogance. The name of this secret art was known as the Grand Grade Heavenly Immortal Art. It referred to the great Tao of heavenly immortals. There were over 3,000 words in the art, which also represented the 3,000 great Taos that contained boundless profound mysteries. After that, the stone monkey immersed himself in the oracular formula all day and night, carefully trying to comprehend the essence within. This monkey was as expected of a spiritual creature born from heavens and earth. Its cultivation aptitude was shocking. In the span of time when it breathed in and out, it subconsciously activated the secret art. The spiritual chi in the surroundings began to gather into heavy flows and envelop the stone monkey entirely. The surroundings around the stone monkey seemed to be transformed into a real black hole. All its pores opened up. For a time, despite the fact that the concentration of spiritual chi on Fengsuan Mountain was very dense, large amounts of it were being absorbed every second. What happened? Which expert is absorbing the spiritual chi? The plundering rate of spiritual chi is simply too tyrannical. We completely have no way to cultivate. Everyone on the gigantic Fengsuan Mountain was startled. Numerous cultivators walked out from all corners, searching for the location the spiritual chi was flowing to. When they saw the monkey seated on one of the lone mountain peaks in the distance, when they saw the spiritual chi was so thick that they had taken the form of clouds and were churning like waves of the oceans, it looked like the monkey was a whale intending to swallow the entire ocean. Their faces were all filled with incomparable fascination. Humans were the spirits of all living things. They had innate Tao bodies and they were innately suitable for cultivation. Earlier when they had seen a monkey being their fellow sect member, they had involuntarily looked down on him because he wasn't human. But when they saw the monkey now, their hearts were filled with countless emotions. Unknowingly, their gazes and expressions all changed. These were the four great realms of ancient cultivation. Feng Lin simply watched as the monkey repeated the same thing day after day. Its cultivation speed could be equated to traveling 1,000 miles in a single day. Very swiftly, it bypassed the first realm and entered the second realm of refining chi into spirit. Every single bit of improvement that was experienced personally by the stone money was now obtained by Feng Lin. His experiences in the mythological illusionscape were equal to him walking again on the path of Sun Wukong. All the experiences here from ancient times would transform into his foundation. Each of the four great secret realms had their mysteries. They involved matter, body, soul, and their connection with the origin source of energy. In the bodies of everyone, there was an independent tiny universe. Their 5 fingers represented the 5 elements of heavens and earth. Their eyes represented the sun and the moon. Their millions of pores represented the countless constellations in the sky, taking in and sending out astral energy. But as to how they should generate spiritual chi to temper one's body, allowing mortals to transcend and enter a higher realm of existence, this was already considered a long-lost secret art, which eventually branched off into the countless cultivation paths of mythological genes. The Grand Great Heavenly Immortal Art represented the official cultivation art of heavenly immortals of ancient times. It was incomparably profound. The path to becoming an immortal was arduously difficult. One would usually need to cultivate for several thousand years. Ordinary people would have died long ago, thus, it was also tough for them to gain insight into the true nature of this art. Only spiritual creatures born from heaven and earth like the stone monkey were able to rapidly grasp it and achieve breakthroughs. From Feng Lin's perspective, this was equivalent to Sun Wukong imparting everything personally. Gradually, he felt a deep sense of fatigue. This secret art was truly too profound. Just memorizing it and attempting to understand it was already sufficient to drain him of his mental energies. Things had to end here. Feng Lin silently felt regret. However, all the knowledge he gained was already enough for him to digest. The path of ancient cultivators? A strange thought arose in his heart, his consciousness wavered as he returned to his original body. Chapter 460, Walking on the Ancient Cultivation Path. Feng Lin gradually woke up. A bright light flashed through his eyes as he stood up. And with it, a pressure akin to the might of a suppressed volcano emitted from the depths of his body, containing immensely vast vitality. Genetic potential plus 3,268. The initial phase of transforming energy into qi. Feng Lin instantly sensed a change in his body. Not only had his genetic potential shot up by over 3,000, but he could also sense a concentrated qi flowing in his body. It was circulating along prefixed paths and forming complete cycles. The circulation continued unendingly. Was this cultivation method meant for ancient cultivators? Feng Lin couldn't help but feel amazed. Without realizing it, he had already cultivated to the entry level of the grand-grade heavenly immortal art. He carefully sensed the changes in his body before finally understanding the crux. The personal experiences of the stone monkey allowed Feng Lin to peel off the layers of mysteries within the grand-grade heavenly immortal art bit by bit. The secret of ancient cultivation also began to be revealed in front of him. Upon sensing this, his body automatically moved. He instinctively entered a cultivation stance and began to absorb the spiritual qi of heavens and earth, rapidly transforming them into true origin energy. When he looked at the time, Feng Lin discovered that his trip into the mythological illusionscape this time around might seem extremely long, but only an hour had passed in reality. Within such a short time, all his mental energy was exhausted, but his cultivation improved rapidly. Moreover, he actually managed to officially enter the path of ancient cultivators, mastering the entry level. Right now, there seemed to be a river of energy circulating automatically within his body. Is this the true origin energy of ancient cultivators then? Feng Lin mused silently, feeling astonished. He used his spirit force to sense and discover a completely different type of energy from the mythological genetic force. This true origin energy had no attributes and was formed purely from the mix of one's life potential and spiritual energy. It had the ability to nourish all living things, capable of transforming something rotten into something magical. Genetic force originated from the mythological genes in one's body. It flowed into each cell and one could control it with a thought. It seemed to exist everywhere. The method of generating true origin energy was completely different. This energy existed within the invisible meridians and was also a type of transcendent force, but it belonged to a different system compared to the mythological gene cultivation system. An invisible network of meridians would form in the human body, connecting and forming a perfect cycle. This was clearly a completely different system. These two completely different types of energy could actually exist without conflict. In that case, could he cultivate these two systems simultaneously? In the mythological illusionscape, Sun Wukong's cultivation experience was in his heart. If he chose to cultivate the grand-grade heavenly immortal art, he should be able to smoothly reach Sun Wukong's level when he exited the mythological illusionscape, the realm of refining qi into spirit. Should he choose to repeat Sun Wukong's steps and walk again on the ancient cultivation path? Feng Lin felt his heart being moved. This was equal to him suddenly gain a method that could enhance his strength. For the path of mythological genes, each gene was like a flight of steps. One had to slowly strengthen it, and there was no shortcut. For the ancient path of cultivation, everything depended on one's comprehension. Once one managed to comprehend certain insights, their improvement would be extremely quick. There were stories about this in myths and legends everywhere. Chang'e flying to the moon, Lu Dongbin achieving his Tao in 3 years. Now, he had the cultivation experience of Sun Wukong in his heart. It was definitely doable if he wanted to walk on the ancient path of cultivation. He actually felt giddy after experiencing the trip into the mythological illusionscape. The consumption of his mental energy was too great. Thus, he instantly began to rest. When he opened his eyes again, dawn had already arrived. His mental energy had also recovered. Since Feng Lin had already made a decision, he wouldn't hesitate. He instantly began to cultivate the grand-grade heavenly immortal art. At the initial phase, he just managed to generate true origin energy. This energy was still extremely weak, and he had to constantly absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to strengthen it. True origin energy slowly extended outwards, opening up an invisible path in his body that was gradually connected from its beginning to the end, forming a perfect cycle. Feng Lin's mythological path gradually entered a deeper and more profound state. His cultivation speed also slowed. He had to accumulate bit by bit before he could improve any further. As for the ancient cultivation path, he was still at the beginning. Hence, his improvement in it was extremely rapid. The true origin energy was like a river, absorbing the vitality in his cells, transforming them into spiritual qi, and fusing everything together. It grew stronger and stronger, as more streams split from the main river, flowing into the 12 main meridians, the 8 extraordinary meridians, and the Ran and Du meridians. This was an unprecedented evolution process from scratch. Combining that with the cultivation knowledge he had, Feng Lin instantly understood the true meaning of this. This was what it meant to borrow the false to cultivate the truth. For mortal bodies and mortal birth creatures, it was tough for them to have the potential to enter the saint realm. But through the ancient cultivation path, they could absorb the spiritual qi of heavens and earth to temper their bodies, reaching a point where their bodies and bones would undergo a mystical transformation that allowed them to construct energy structures within their flesh. These energy structures were known as meridians. This was originally illusory, but if one cultivated in this manner repeatedly day after day, they would be able to turn illusory into reality, transforming the base of cultivators step by step and approaching the level of saints and deities. This was the deepest mystery of the ancient cultivation path. One must defy the heavens and cultivate, borrowing the false to restore the truth. It was a path that was filled with boundless possibilities. Meridians weren't something humans were innately born with, as they weren't part of the organ tissues. They were just channels capable of transmitting the flow of life energy. But now, under the strengthening of the true origin energy, the meridian map in the human body, which was extremely tough to be revealed, was now displayed, forming a perfect cycle system. Feng Lin used his spirit force and could clearly sense this. His meridians were extremely complex. There were the normal meridians, extraordinary meridians, and many hidden meridians and acupoints. Their number was like the stars in the sky. If one wanted to convert life energy into true origin energy, the effort one had to expend would be immensely huge, and the process was extremely complicated. They had to carry out conversion at a rate of over 100:1 before they could generate true origin energy. And once there was the slightest bit mistake, they would suffer a backlash and injure their bodies. For more serious cases, they might even lose themselves to their heart devils. For those on the ancient path of cultivation, they had to be cautious. One could only proceed if there was no distraction in their hearts. This was also why ancient cultivators would often seclude themselves in the wilderness. They didn't want anything from the mortal world to disturb them. After personally witnessing this, Feng Lin discovered the strong points of the Sun Wukong Jin's cultivation path. Sun Wukong Jin would develop his spirit and heart, capable of endless transformations, as well as able to accomplish anything. Under the control of his spirit force, he could control the true origin energy, allowing him to use it as he desired. The cultivation gene allowed his state of heart to be as still as water, without a single ripple. Under the circulation of his true origin energy, the flow was extremely smooth, with no obstructions at all. His cultivation speed far surpassed ordinary people. The true origin energy from Feng Lin's body also grew increasingly concentrated, forming a vortex that sucked the spiritual qi from Feng Lin's surroundings dry. He was already at the adept level. As he comprehended more things, he decided to walk again on the ancient cultivation path. With Sun Wukong's talent in his body, his path would surely be extremely smooth. He could transform everything he gained from the mythological illusionscape into his own resources. As he cultivated, he lost track of time. The spiritual qi continued to flow in his body, forming a resonance with the heavens and earth. His depleted energy would be constantly replenished. Such replenishment was far more efficient than eating food to restore energy. This was also known as refining the essence of heavens and earth. He was surrounded by a cool breeze that could be felt within his body as well. Feng Lin's aura rapidly expanded at a rate visible to the naked eye. His true origin energy gradually expanded from streams of water into large rivers, before becoming a huge lake that exuded a majestic aura that could shatter all shackles into pieces. He then reached the mid-phase of transforming energy into qi, and soon after that, he entered the late phase.